My favorite Madeline memory, I have so many. I've lived with David and Lindsay for 5 years almost. Um, but one that sticks out is dinner time with Madeline was always an adventure. We sit down and have dinner every night, and Genevieve and Isabel have better table manners. They're not perfect, obviously, they're little, but Madeline was just given up on when it comes to table manners, and so she was never willing to sit in her seat politely, and when she was forced to, it was not pleasant to listen to. She would much prefer to be walking around the house, standing on the table, sitting on the table, anywhere but in her chair. And yeah, this was a regular occurrence at dinner time. Yeah, hilarious. And then just another one that will stick out forever and just I'll always treasure is when Madeline was going through treatment. It was around Halloween time. I took the older girls with me. We went to Iowa City to visit her, and we were singing Frozen and dancing, and she was just in the best mood considering everything she was going through. And at one point, she grabs my face and gives me an Eskimo kiss, and that's this moment. And yeah, it's just something that I will forever treasure, and I'll miss her always.
One of my favorite uncle moments was when I was outside at Grammy D's house and swinging all three girls at the same time, Genevieve, Isabel, and Madeline. And the two girls were in the one saying higher and higher and higher. And then Madeline was in the second hammock, and she finally joined in the chorus and said higher, higher. It was just so sweet. She just wanted to be included in everything. She was just so happy to be a part of it, and we never wanted to exclude her because of how much joy she brought into every situation. That was Madeline. She's so sweet.
This is Madeline's Uncle Seth, and Madeline was very independent and capable, and she would find her way around all of the family gatherings. I can remember several of them where she would just be roaming around, and she'd find her way on my lap. And she'd just have that subtle and sweet smile that had a little bit of mischievousness in it, but she would find her way onto my lap, and without saying a word, I just knew that she was in the right spot and I was in the right spot too.
The thing I will remember most about Madeline is her smile and her little giggle that often accompanied her smile when she would get something that she wanted, like a snack or to be held. And I remember that little smile on a trip to the orchard this last fall. We had an open seat in our stroller, and she just commandeered that seat. And Lindsay asked her a few times if she wanted to be held or to walk, and she just shook her head with her little content smile and twirled her bare feet toes because she was just enjoying the ride.
One of the greatest memories we have of Maddie, seeing that we never got really to spend a lot of time with her because of distance, is at John's wedding. What a blessing it was that during her ordeal, she was really, really good at John's wedding. She was happy, she was vibrant, she was Madeline. And I had her on my lap. I have pictures of her on my shoulders, but at one point she was on my lap eating a cupcake, and she was picking at the cupcake, and I took the cupcake and I kind of shoved it in her face and made a joke out of it. She laughed her head off, and so she was just such a fun little girl, and we loved her. And one of my favorite things too was when Dave would call and video call us, and she would call me Pappy and G-Ma. So we're gonna miss her. She was a special baby.
Yes.
Well, when it comes to thinking of Madeline, one memory that always comes to mind was her bright blue eyes and seeing her always happy and smiling. So always remember Madeline that way.
And her belly laugh. She giggled so well. It was so contagious every single time.
I remember that she was always so full of energy.
We'll miss you, Madeline.
Hi, Gravelin family. It's Taylor.
And Julia from the Child Life team up on level 11 at Stead Family Children's Hospital.
We just wanted to share some of our favorite memories working with Madeline. The first one would be during playtime when we got to see her use her muscles when she would pull apart her Lego pieces.
And another time in our minds was when she was getting her bone marrow transplant, and we brought in some very sweet and tasty gingerbread houses for Madeline and her fabulous sisters to make together while they were visiting at the hospital. It was so good to meet the whole family and see how much love Madeline was surrounded by.
Our thoughts are with you and your family. Bye.
My name is Andrew Groves. I'm a pediatric neuro-oncologist, and I took care of Madeline throughout her treatment course. Madeline was a very special little girl. What I remember most about her is her smile. She had the most beautiful, wonderful smile that would just melt me into a puddle. And she had such an open heart. She, with any new person, it would be such a normal response to be afraid and anxious, but she was always just so interested in new people, would smile at them. I remember on rounds, her looking around at all the different providers, nurses, doctors, social workers, and smiling and giggling to herself like she just told an inside joke that only she got. And as I told Lindsay and David, when my son, who's 2, grows up, I'm going to tell him all about Madeline, what a special person she was, and how she was the bravest little girl I ever knew. So sending all my thoughts, love, prayer to Lindsay, David, the whole family.
Madeline Joy was such a precious reminder of what it looked like to receive the kingdom of God as a child. She came boldly without pretense or fear. She came with transparency, with humility. I would come to check on her baby sibling in the womb, and she'd sit right next to her mama the whole time, and it was sometimes a while. And she would look with those deep blue eyes and be thinking deeply, what was this lady doing with mama, with that baby inside mommy? And it was such just a sweet reminder. Before I knew it, she'd sit on my lap, maybe reading books, maybe laughing, maybe thinking aloud. And she was not ashamed to ask as a child. In this past year, so very much, there was that humble, dependent trust there that only Jesus can give her. And that's what Jesus calls us to have. I was blessed beyond measure to learn such from a child.
This is Madeline's Aunt Christy, and I wrote a poem. It's called When You Reach Heaven. When you reach heaven, I want you to know that Jesus will be waiting to show you around. Your body will be whole, no tubes to be found. When you reach heaven, I want you to know that you'll meet some old faces and of course many new. That each person has a story, some more than a few. When you reach heaven, I want you to know that your life impacted heaven, but especially the earth, that your mom dreamt of you long before your birth. When you reach heaven, I want you to know that we did all we could, but 2 months there you lied, that we didn't know out of a cocoon would come a heavenly butterfly. When you reach heaven, I want you to know that your face was beautiful and free, no more machines and alarms, that your last dance on earth was in your daddy's arms. When you reach heaven, I want you to know that your sisters will remind us we'll somehow be okay, that the light will break through, even as grief lingers, we will find our way. When you reach heaven, I want you to know that the ones who prayed for you still haven't lost hope, that if love was enough to keep you, we wouldn't need to cope. When you reach heaven, I want you to know that the King of all kings has welcomed you home, that although we're not with you, you, my girlie, are never alone.
Hey, we just wanted to take a second and share one of our favorite Madeline memories. And when we think about Madeline and stuff, obviously we live pretty far away, so our favorite time was when David was obviously being a good father and staying with all the kids, but Lindsay and Madeline got to come to our wedding. And she was dancing and having a great time, and was just like a little piece of Iowa and the whole family out in California. And that's, I think, my and our favorite memory.
We try to do Christmas big at our house, and Madeline's parents, Lindsay and David, had arranged for her to come home a day or two early. And when she came home, it was such a surprise for all of us. She maybe wasn't feeling very well, but she was an example to all of us on how to be fully joyful and present and engaged in each situation. And we'll remember that forever. Thank you, Madeline.
Madeline loved people, and she had the best greetings. And whenever she would come to our house or she would see me, she would say, "Grammy D!" And one Sunday I was on the worship team and was up on stage, and they came in a little bit late and it was quiet, and she saw me on stage and she said, "Grammy D!" Oh, Madeline, I'm going to miss your greetings.
I remember when Madeline's treatment was over and she came to our house, and we were reading books together with Rosie.
And then she went right back into the hospital, which was very sad.
It was sad, but I remember that for that time when she came over, she was laughing and laughing, and we'd read the book, and every time she heard the joke in the book, it would be like it was the first time she heard it, and she would laugh and laugh. And then after we were finished, yep, the Oops book, and when the book was over, she'd just ask to read it again, and we must have read it 10 times, and she would laugh and laugh every time, and it was just infectious.
Me too.
And Rose was laughing too, and I was laughing. We were all having a great time, and we didn't know that was the last time we were going to get to play with her and read books with her. But we were always grateful for that sort of last chance to spend time with her.
Yeah, and I remember on that day too, she was feeling really good, and we were all sitting and eating dinner together, and she was done like right away, and her and Andrew had been running around the house all day, and she was like kind of upset that we were all still eating. And she just turns around and she points at Andrew. She goes, "You! Hey, you! Get me!" And so that was like a really fun and funny memory, and like probably the last thing I ever heard her say. So yeah, having them here at our house right before she went home was pretty special day for us. Yeah, and I do remember at every one of Rosie's birthday parties when Madeline would come, she would go and hop in my sister's lap, who was usually sitting by herself. And my sister would always tell me that Madeline was the only one who liked her. So she was just like down to go sit with anybody and be with anybody and bring joy to anybody. So she was very sweet in that way. So.
One of my favorite Madeline stories has to be when Madeline and one of her older sisters were over playing, and they wanted to transform my family room into their house. So they went ahead and set up all their babies and all the different stations, and her older sister was just busy. She was cleaning, she was answering phones, ironing, changing babies, feeding babies. But there was Miss Madeline just in the center of the room with her one baby doll, only caring for her one baby, holding her up, talking to her, singing to her. It was just so beautiful to watch Madeline nurture this baby so well.
One of my favorite memories of Madeline is at Christmas time. Me and August were on Grandma and Papa's bed, and Madeline kept on jumping around on the bed and hugging us and laughing and feeling really happy. And one of my other favorite memories of Madeline is at 2 years ago when it was at Isabel's birthday, and Madeline, when she got some cake, she just dove right into it and got really messy.
Some of the best times I got to spend with Madeline were the 4 or 5 weekends where she had chemotherapy treatment, and it was just so great to be one-on-one with her, and David was there as well, and just being able to spend time in the joy that she was. I just remember her climbing up on my lap and putting her arms around me and just holding so tight. It was almost like she was saying goodbye and I love you, but it an amazing time. I know I'll remember that for the rest of my life.
My name is Maddie Smith, and I am the Hospital Liaison Director for the University of Iowa Dance Marathon. My favorite memory of Madeline was spent volunteering in her room several weeks ago as we read a book together about God as a shepherd. Madeline sat close to me, and we got some good snuggles in as she pointed to the animals and made all of the noises. I will forever cherish this memory, and I'm sending love to all who love her.
When I think of Madeline, I think of her middle name, Joy, because joy is what I saw anytime I saw Madeline or interacted with her. And a few memories come to mind of that. One is sitting here in the sanctuary at Grand Avenue Baptist Church from up front and looking out and seeing Madeline on her grandmother's hip in worship as they're sort of swaying back and forth to the music and singing to Jesus. And I look forward to the day in the resurrection when I will get to see Madeline and Darlene there standing side by side, worshiping Jesus together. And I also think about Madeline's smile. She had that little grin that told you she was thinking about what she was going to do, and it was going to be fun. And she was ready to do it. And I just look forward to the day when Jesus raises his people from the dead and he makes a new heavens and a new earth. And I can just picture Madeline in her new body getting a grin on her face, ready to go, go, go. And she's going to sprint off to dig in the new dirt and get her fingernails dirty. And she is going to go find all the bootiful things in the new creation. And it will be glorious to explore that new creation with Madeline and with her Savior Jesus.
Another favorite Madeline story would have to be when Madeline and her sisters were over and we had a dance party. So this was post-surgery for Madeline, so she just needed some extra care on this particular evening. So a dance party with Madeline meant Madeline was going to be on my hip. So 3 or 4 songs in, and I said, all right, girl, should we do something else? And, Madeline, no. All right, so played another song. Okay, are we about done? No. Well, who was going to argue with this girl? So we dance and dance, and I'd say, oh, Madeline, you are getting so heavy. And she'd giggle and giggle, and we just kept dancing, and she just had a blast.
One of my favorite memories of Madeline was over Thanksgiving. She was just so sick, and usually we always hear that guttural laugh that brings us so much joy, but today she was so sick. And on Thanksgiving, for probably the last 30 minutes of the day, I was able to hold her because she said she wanted her Uncle Jacob. And I was just able to sit and hold her. She was so hot and so sick, but that moment we shared, I'll remember for the rest of my life.
From almost the very beginning of her treatment, Madeline had to be tube fed, and she had this little backpack that was made for small children, but she was even too small to be able to wear it on her back and carry it around. And so if she wanted to move from place to place while she was being fed, she had to drag this little backpack behind her. If you were playing with her, however, she expected you to be the backpack dragger. And so when she would decide that she was done playing whatever you were doing, she would stand up and she would walk to the length of the tube and then look back at you and say, come on, which meant pick up my bag and go where I want you to. And so we were sitting around talking the other night, Melissa, Lindsay, and I, and just talking about heaven and being there. And Melissa says, can't you see her on the other side when we arrive? And her saying, come on. And I just love that picture, that she would be there welcoming us and just inviting us to come on and enjoy all the riches that she has enjoyed between the time that she went there Friday until the time we get there.